welcome to the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Marissa Johnson. In the past 2 years, 26 of the 31 collegiate Division I athletic conferences have seen changes in membership. Recent examples include Maryland and Rutgers joining the Big Ten. Grand Canyon University became the first for-profit university in Division I athletics, and of course Butler made the switch from the Horizon League to the Atlantic 10 Conference. Today on the Blitz, we are going to discuss the business of sports and the implications these kinds of moves are having on college athletics. But first, our own Matt Schumacher talked to a few Butler athletes to get their take on the conference switch and to see how it's affected their teams and the athletic department.
With the latest round of conference realignment in full swing, as schools depart for bigger, more profitable horizons, I caught up with a few members of Butler Athletics to get their take on the Dogs' move to the A-10.
Well, I think it's just a great opportunity, not only for our athletic programs, but for the university as a whole. We get to take our brand into a whole new area, particularly out east. You're playing in major metropolitan areas like we're going to. It gives you more exposure. More people are going to read about it, hear about it, talk about it.
I think it gets Butler University on an even more national stage. We're going to be in the spotlight that much more than we were just when we were in the Horizon League, where we did make the Final Four 2 years in a row. That helped a lot, but now it's going to be on a consistent basis.
TV-wise, you're going to be on CBS Sports Network, so that's a new platform for us. There's something new called A10 TV that they're coming out with a couple of our games this year. The conference tournament championship is on CBS, so I think a lot of excitement here for sure.
It's a change of scenery, being able for our sport to travel to Rhode Island for indoors is pretty cool, and then we're going to Charlotte for outdoors, so that'll be pretty fun trip.
I'm excited to play better competition, see how I compare to that competition, and hopefully we can go out and do good things.
I think it'll help with recruiting actually for a lot of sports, being in a better conference.
I think it's also helped recruiting. I think we have a really strong recruiting class this year. The guys are big, the guys are strong, and I know they're ready to go as well.
It's opens doors for us to go and visit with friends and alums and donors in new areas, particularly in some heavily populated areas where we'll have more prospects to go visit with. But every time they see the Butler Blue and they hear about Butler University, all programs will benefit from that.
We are now joined in studio by a marketing professor from Butler's College of Business. Dr. Dan McQuiston has expertise in developing marketing plans and business relationships. He is here with us today to talk about the business of sports and marketing strategies within athletics. Dr. McQuiston, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If you don't mind, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in.
Sure.
And if you can kind of talk to us about what you see as the purpose of sports and kind of the difference between amateur athletics and professional side.
Well, the purpose of sports has always had a place in our society since, the earliest days. And if you think about the purpose of sports, when you start off, it has a position both for the individual and both for the institution when we talk about colleges. For the individual, we talk about, little kids playing soccer and basketball and t-ball from the earliest age. It teaches them teamwork, it teaches them competitiveness, it teaches them self-discipline and all those kinds of things. And then as we go through, obviously, to the high school and particularly in the college side, it's very important in developing, a brand for the institution. And it gives a lot of students, of course, the opportunity for an education that they wouldn't have otherwise. And then, of course, once you get into the professional side, it provides a living for some folks. So you kind of see, it kind of runs the whole gamut there.
Mm-hmm. And you said it kind of provides a brand for the university.
Mm-hmm.
How does it play a role in creating that brand?
Well, one of the things that the sports does, a sports team, is it really can create almost an identity for that university, because what it does is it can kind of enhance the academic reputation. I'll just use us as an example. For those of us who were here in 2010 when we went to the Final Four, one of the things that came out throughout that whole entire process was what a fine institution that Butler was now, and it created, the estimates are that we got about $700 million worth of public relations and advertising to that. So that, in that case, our basketball team really helped enhance the brand of the fine academic institution that Butler is.
So what would happen if a university didn't have a high-quality athletic program? Does that change the marketing strategy?
Well, it would. Yes, it very definitely does. And one of the things that an athletic team does is it helps. It's a very public forum, and so it helps create that. When you have a school that does not have that, then they're forced to rely on maybe their academic or other pursuits that would have maybe a little less broader appeal than sports would.
Can you talk about then what Butler's current marketing plan that you see has put in place and kind of the balance between academics, athletics, social?
Well, I've been at Butler 23 years, and so it's been really very, very interesting to see kind of the metamorphosis of the university and the program as itself. But one of the things that hasn't changed, and I'm very proud of this fact, being a faculty member here, that at Butler there's no hyphen between student and athlete. All of our, and as I tell recruits that come in, all of our people here are students who just happen to play a sport. And so with that, it's really just how it is. That part really hasn't changed. What we've been able to do is put it in a much more public forum, and now everybody most people who follow basketball at all know of Butler and know what a fine academic institution is. So it's really helped again to enhance our image.
How did, if at all, did you see it change after that first national championship runner-up?
Well, it just increased the visibility of the university just tenfold. For any of us who do any traveling at all, for the few months after that, whenever you went and you were at Butler, you were a rock star. As an example, a couple of my colleagues and I were at an academic meeting for department chairs, and there were about 60 people in the room. And we went around and introduced everybody, and we said, we're so-and-so from Butler University. Everybody applauded for us, just because of that. And that summer, we were on vacation on the beach in North Carolina, and I was walking down this beach with my Butler shirt on, and I had people stop and shake my hand and say, we really appreciate that, and not only you guys getting to the final game, but also what a fine academic institution you've done. So not that we were hiding our light underneath a bushel, but it gave us an opportunity to really expand on what a fine institution we are.
I know application rate rose 42% after that year,
Mm-hmm.
so visibility obviously increased. If that wouldn't have happened, we still have a strong athletic program, but not the recognition. How does that impact it?
How does, I guess I'm not sure your question. Okay.
If that wouldn't have happened, would it have continued the same marketing plan?
I think so. But like you said, it just gave us so much more visibility. We're an fine academic institution, and we were, of course, gaining recognition in other ways. But again, the athletic program just really served to accelerate that tenfold.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see the university and the athletic department market their purpose? And I mean, going back to the first question, the purpose of teamwork and commitment, and I mean, how do they market that?
Well, one of the things that Barry Collier, our athletic director, really talked about is the Butler way. And that has really kind of been the whole mantra of that. And he has the whole Butler way is based on servanthood and humility and that sort of thing. And that gets mentioned just about every time. And so that's one of our kind of distinguishing characteristics, because with us and at Butler, it's all about the team, and it's all about developing these players, and I'll talk about both men and women, into fine young men and fine young women, who Gordon Hayward was an anomaly going on and playing pro sports here. Most of our students don't end up playing pro sports, but they end up being. What's really neat for me to see is when I see an athlete, a student I had as an athlete, who I ran into in homecoming 5 or 10 years later, and they're a division manager, or they're a sales manager, or they're an account manager, or something like that. And they learned a lot of that, what they've learned not only here through the sports program, but just obviously through the academics as well. So the nice mix is really a neat thing to see.
Grand Canyon University became the first for-profit university in Division I athletics. Right. How much does making a profit and money in general have to do with college athletics when it's not a per se for-profit university?
Well, one of the things, Marissa, is and you can say it's all about the money, but I wanna qualify that. Is one of the things that people don't realize is how tremendously expensive it is to run an an athletic program. There are 35 sports in Division I. Now, at Butler we only have 17. Ohio State has 33 of those sports. And my wife did her undergraduate at Ohio State. Well, she had a friend of hers who went to Ohio State on a field hockey scholarship. And so of those 35 sports, only usually 33 make money. And that's football and basketball. The vast majority, even of big Division I programs, run at a deficit. And so what you have to do, and that's one of the things you're seeing now with all this consolidation of conferences, because they're able to get TV revenues, and then what they can do is then they can take that money and get it back to the schools, who can in turn then finance their academic programs. You know, an example, like last year in 2011 rather, the Big Ten Network was able to give each of their 12 institutions $24 million. And one of the reasons that the University of Maryland, quite frankly, one of the reasons they joined the Big Ten, their athletic department was broke. It, in essence, is broke. They had to quit 7 athletic sports, and they had some coaches that they had to let go and pay them. People weren't coming to the games. They were running at a huge deficit. And so they remember the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, that payout was about 12 to 13 million a year. Big Ten is going to be 24, predicted to be 27, 28 next year. So the numbers are there. So what happens is the football and basketball then revenues and also the TV revenues can then fund all the other programs that are non-revenue generating, and again provide the students the opportunity to both compete and to get an education.
So I know conferences in the past were kind of based geographically, and that was kind of how they were formed. What would you say is the basis of the conferences now with all these changes?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm not sure there is one. You know, with us, with Butler, going into what it did for us, going into the Athletic 10, was really get us into a geographic region, exposure into a geographic region that we just don't have, and just haven't had. And so that's going to get us exposure. Again, I'll talk about the Big Ten Network. Jim Delaney, who was commissioner of the Big Ten, actually came and spoke at our sports marketing class a couple years ago. Very, very interesting guy, very much a visionary, if you will. They make no bones about it. He said that's going to get them into the big markets of New York and Washington to D.C. and into the Philadelphia market that they're not in. And so the revenues that they can again generate, that will go back to the institutions. The point that I want to emphasize when they say it's about the money, yes, it is about the money, but it's about the money again being split up so that the schools can then fund the academic or the athletic programs that some of them who are in big trouble right now.
Do you know if there's a reason that a lot of universities and schools are going east rather than west?
It's where the population is, just because the population's there. Because yes, there are some big, of course there's some big cities in the West Coast, but really, once you get kind of past the Chicago, St. Louis, there's more pockets where you have the East Coast. It's just such a bigger population concentration, and by that, then they can command more TV revenues and therefore more money for everybody else.
So what would you say overall the message, and this can be Butler specific as well, the switch the conference, what message and what branding is that giving the university?
Well, the thing that I see is it's giving us, I'm not sure it's going to change the brand that we have that much. What it's going to do is give us a lot more exposure into markets that maybe, they kind of heard about us a couple years ago, but now they see us come and they see us come there and then they get to come here. And we all know what a special place Butler is to come and Butler is to be. And Hinkle Fieldhouse, what a wonderful place that is. So it's going to really help us expand, not necessarily change our brand, but expand that brand into other areas that we don't have now. Just as an example, when we were going through, what we have is now you would know this, your audience wouldn't, but seniors in high school who have been accepted to Butler come for early registration. And we as faculty will sit down with them and get them our classes and so forth. And what I've noticed in the last couple years is, before we'd have students from, Valparaiso and, Bloomington and Fort Wayne. Now we're getting students from, Minneapolis, from Denver, from Austin, Texas. And I asked them, how'd you end up at Butler? And inevitably it's, well, I heard it, I saw you on the basketball, got on the website, really liked it, came out and visited, and here I am. And so it's getting us, students, and that's great for our students to get a much more geographically diverse population. It's good for you guys to meet somebody and maybe get to go somewhere you wouldn't get to go. It just expands the educational experience all the way around.
And that's really what Butler's about, right?
It really was. It's, one of the things that we're all about is how do we create the best educational experience we possibly can for our students. That's why we're here as faculty, and that's why you came here, and that's why our students come here. And anything we can do it's going to promote that educational experience, we're all about.
All right. Thank you, Dr. McQuiston. We're actually out of time, but I can't express enough how glad I am that you came on the show today. And thank you for watching this edition of the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Marissa Johnson. Ryan Hinson will be on next with this week's Bulldog Blitz scoreboard.
Hello, and welcome to the Bulldog Blitz scoreboard. I'm Ryan Henson. The men's basketball team is coming off a win over Ball State at Hinkle Fieldhouse. IUPUI is next on the schedule. The Lady Bulldogs are also taking a victory into their next game. Butler beat Eastern Michigan and will play Bowling Green next. Freshman Elizabeth Miller owns the second fastest time in school history in the 1600-meter freestyle. She led Butler's swim team to a 6th place finish in a recent swimming invitational. The Bulldog swimmers are off until January. The Butler track and field team has a new trophy. The squad won the University of Indianapolis Invitational, and the team will now travel to Indiana University this Friday. There are plenty of opportunities for everyone to go out and support the Bulldogs over winter break. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Ryan Henson.